Analysis with Michael Cox. He's the founding director of LSE IDEAS. It's the foreign policy think tank at the London School of Economics and Political Science. Michael, always a pleasure to have you on. Do you feel this Ukrainian incursion is likely to change the course of the whole war?
In a word, no. However, I think it does change the short-term dynamics of the war, particularly psychologically, because over the last 12 months, Ukraine has been on the back foot, and the news has not been good from any part of the front. Now there is this breakthrough. Now, it's not going to change the whole course of the war, your question originally, but psychologically, I think in many ways it does make a difference. It kind of gives the Ukrainians a little bit to look forward to. It sends out a message also to the West. We're not defeated yet, you know. And finally, of course, it sends out a kind of psychological message to Russia, at least to Putin, that you've been talking about the inevitable victory of Russia over Ukraine. Well, it isn't going to be so easy. We're now occupying 1,000 square miles of Russian territory. And that must have had some impact in the Kremlin itself.
Yeah, OK, just to pick up on that specific point, as you're mentioning it, there are media reports of people along the border regions inside Russia who are increasingly talking about their desire for peace, because, of course, they're now feeling it more. Will that local sentiment on the border make any difference to the Kremlin?
Well, it's bound to feed in, as far as we know what goes on inside the Kremlin, and we know actually much less than we make out sometimes. Overall, the decisions will be taken in the Kremlin and fundamentally by Putin and his national security people. They still feel the dynamic of the war is in their favor simply because Russia is much bigger, firstly. It has more military capabilities. It has more men, second and thirdly. And I think, fourthly, they kind of think, in a way, that however much the West is putting in, the West is a little bit wobbly on this question. And certainly they're looking forward to a certain result in the November elections in the United States. So Russia still feels that the overall balance is moving in their direction. However, there is what they must see as a short-term and medium-term setback. Whether it's a long-term setback, we'll have to wait and see.
Will Vladimir Putin be looking at this and thinking that this has to be a multilateral operation, almost a multinational operation, while conducted possibly by Ukrainian citizens with Western intelligence support, making it a multilateral, multinational operation? Is that likely to be the case? And will Putin see it that way, even if it isn't?
Well, multilateral, in a sense, covers a multitude of sins, if I might say so. I mean, the way that Putin is reading this, in a way, he's said the whole war, it isn't about Ukraine per se, although that's the fundamental site of the war going on. It's really about NATO attacking, posing a serious threat to Russia's integrity and to its long-term stability. And in a way, you might say that while this has given a lot of psychological boost to Ukraine and to its supporters in the West and elsewhere, it plays to a narrative which Putin has already said is true, namely that what we're engaged in here is not a war with Ukraine as such, but particularly with a war with NATO. So at one level, you could say that this war will actually play into his narrative, even if it's regarded, I think, as a short-term, maybe medium-term blow to his prestige.
Michael Cox, thank you so much indeed. Look forward to the next time.
Thank you. All the best.